Hey, super quick note, if you plan on reading the series, there are some moments where there's a little bit of violence and things like that. So if you're not into, seeing something like that, I just wouldn't recommend it. I don't think it's like super overly graphic or anything, but it is something to take note of. Yeah, we can get into the video now. Hello! Today we're back again with another one. What's the one today? Star, strike it rich. It's it's something. Um, yeah, I don't know. Before we begin, just hey, do the usual YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, blah blah blah. All right. Again, moving on to the meat and potatoes, if you will. If you haven't seen any of these other videos that I've done, as I've always said, that's me. But whatever. I'm going to give you a general rating, nothing behind that, and then I'm going to explain why I gave it that rating afterwards. So, I mean, if you want to dip out after the general rating, then hey, I get it. But I'd appreciate if you stayed around. Okay, general rating. I'm going to give it an 8. I like it. Super good. I think it was very entertaining. I will say there are parts where if you take the whole thing and break it down into different pieces like story, things like that, there are parts that are probably lower than an 8, but the total package and the entertainment value is probably about an 8. Maybe you can push it to a 9, just because of entertainment, right? It's not the deepest of stories, I'll say, but and it's very entertaining. That's the big thing. All right, so I'm just gonna get into it a little bit. First of all, just as like far as comparisons go, in case you want to kind of get like an idea of what this is like, there's definitely like, I think like Baki is probably a something akin to this, where it's like a very fighting centric kind of silly story. Like there are story elements, but why, like the reason you're probably reading it is more so for like the visuals, the fights, and it's just like fun. Like the storytelling is more about like just having a entertaining time reading like a fun story, rather than being like, some deep masterpiece of storytelling or whatever. So like I don't think the plot is necessarily the biggest point here. I think it's just kind of like, it's that background to keep you like a little more invested. I think the main focus is definitely like the visuals, the fights, things like that. So I would kind of akin it to Baki. Another one is probably Record of Ragnarok. It kind of has that Record of Ragnarok vibe where, there is a story to everything, but like, you're not there for the story. You want to see the fight. You want to see like the art, the visuals, the interesting fight, maybe like the dialogue between two characters. Like the overarching story is just kind of like the scaffolding to keep everything in line and going. So yeah, I mean, I think like Baki and Record of Ragnarok are probably the two examples of series that are similar to this. So if you like either of those, I imagine you would like this. Alright, so let's get a little bit into how that, how the story plays out and how the, manga is situated. Well, the basic idea is a character, I think I might have an image. This character, and two of her friends are kind of like, a little bit down on their luck. She is a fighter in like underground arenas because she injured her eye and she couldn't fight professionally. But she's, she hasn't been doing that well and she's just kind of getting by. And she has two friends that want to, hang out with her and help her out a little bit. One of them is a lower class Yakuza member. I think she's actually like a leader technically, but it's like she's not the highest on the totem pole when it comes to Yakuza or whatever. And then the other one is like a dirty cop. And the general idea is they get together and kind of start like an underground fighting ring, basically. And how the story starts is they want to look for like a, you know, like a big draw, like the big attention magnet, you know, like the star fighter. Uh, uh? But yeah, no, they pick this girl who just so happens to be the daughter of a cult leader. And she was basically trained, you know, from a young age to fight and, you know, do all these crazy things, and is probably one of the most dangerous people around. I won't get into any more specifics on that because there is a little nuance to the whole cult leader thing. Like she, yeah, you know, yeah, maybe it goes a little deeper. Um, but the basic idea is she's very dangerous. They hire, well, yeah, they recruit her for the fighting organization to be the big player, and she's kind of, she doesn't look the most threatening, but she's, I guess you could say, the Baki stand-in, where she does, like, she's a little smaller than most of the fighters, and, normally she's a little, I would say she's a lot more of an underdog than Baki, if we're just looking at, like, visuals. Like, she definitely does not look like a fighter, but, she's, the one you wouldn't expect to win, but then she always wins. And then, like, she's super bubbly, always going out in the ring, acting all, like, innocent, even though she has, like, access to nuclear bombs and things like that, and is, like, ridiculous in a lot of different ways. Yeah, and then, that's kind of, like, the start of their little fighting organization. And she puts down a certain amount of money, I think it's, like, 2 million yen or whatever the hell it is, and all these fighters are coming to beat her. And the general idea of the story is she wants a good fight. For this, I read, I think, 3 volumes, which I think totals somewhere around 33-ish chapters, somewhere in that ballpark. So I don't know everything. I'm not going to say, I know everything about this or whatever, but from what I've seen, it's the main part up till that point is basically new fighters showing up. They get in a fight with her, and then, one way or another, they end up joining the organization, whether or not it's for money or because they, see some value in her, who knows, it's different per fighter. And then the general thing is just, trying to build up this organization with little sprinklings of other, plot developments throughout. So, like, this fighter comes in from another organization to challenge her for the money. You probably know how that ends. Then we see this fighter come in, then, she ends up joining, and then they have to, like, fight another group that wants to, combat and, them and everything, right? Like, the general gist is there, right? Like, it's a new fighter shows up, they have a tournament. Again, I would say it's very akin to either Baki or Record of Ragnarok, where the outside plot is basically, like, the fuel to get to the fight. Like, the stuff that you definitely want to see is more of the fights, right? Like, you see, like, these ridiculous, proportions like this and everything, and it's like, whoa, okay, yeah, it's definitely, like, some crazy art. I will say this, I really think the art is super fun. I don't know if, like, good is necessarily the correct term. Like, it is good, but I don't know if that's, like, what I would call it. It's more of, like, JoJo's or something where it's, like, silly, like, proportions at times, like, things look a little strange, and it's like it does so well in, like, the fight, like, the action and everything is just so good. Yeah, but like I was talking about, like, this character, I think, this is like Baki. You could see this character in Baki. You could 100% see that. And then, like, they always do, like, the stand-ins, like, oh, here's, like, the, like, information about them, like, oh, their weight and their height and their, what kind of special moves they have, and they give all the backstory, kind of like Record and Ragnarok and Baki. Like, those are really the best comparisons that someone might know. It has, like, all those tropes, like, explaining everything that's happening, like, hyperbolizing everything, like, oh, this person did this crazy thing that makes, like, no sense, like, they went to the top of a cliff and punched a boulder and it went flying like a meteor. I don't know. Like, it's always something crazy. They even have, like, the whole convict idea. One of the promoters, like, one of the main parts of the organization, this girl. This is the corrupt cop I was talking about. A big element of the series is her getting criminals to join the organization and fight. Um, and like you see some pretty like violent parts in this series. Like here she's like biting another contestant, which is like, holy god. I don't know, man. It's like it, visually speaking, it is super entertaining. Like it's like pretty violent. I wouldn't. There are moments of gore. I would say, like it's again, it has like the Baki Valkyrie, like Record of Ragnarok, like that art style where you will see, you know, some scenes are pretty like brutal. If you don't want to see those super brutal scenes, then I would not recommend, you know, reading it. But I don't think it's like distasteful all the time. Like there hasn't been anything where I'm like, oh, that's disgusting or whatever. Really, I mean, like you could, you know, like it's okay. It's not gonna get you too bad. I will say, though, on that note, I'm kind of contradicting myself here, but if you get to this panel and you know you see the foot problem here, I am not going to scroll down because I don't want to make someone disgusted, but it does get a little gross. This is probably one of the more like disgusting, violent scenes, at least. So I'm not going to say it never happens. It's just I wouldn't say it's like a commonality of the story. But yeah, I mean, like, really, the main thing is, I would say the focus is probably this girl trying to get into a fight with someone at her level. We see, you know, we see like tons of different people fight her, like almost every character. The main like leading character, I guess, outside of that girl, this one, she's like one of the ones that's in competition, but she has eye problems. But you know, they're kind of like, you know, setting up for a fight between this girl and that one. But the basic, like all the plot points on the side are more so just ways of getting to a new fight. It's pretty much like there's little sprinkling. It's like, oh, we're starting an organization to get money. Oh, like here's the backstory of this specific character. But like it's all kind of just getting to a fight between two different characters. I think like it's a fun plot, but I wouldn't say it's like deep or anything. I did see a couple of people commenting that like, oh, the plot's so good. I'm gonna be real honest with you, I don't know what they're talking about. I feel like there really wasn't that much plot to be good. Like there just wasn't that much there, really. I mean, I like the setup, but I don't know if I could say it's like a 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 plot for just setup. I feel like that's a little... I think I would be disingenuous if I said that was like the best thing or whatever. I think it is serviceable and it's fun, but it's not like a masterpiece in terms of that. I mean, like I like the setup. I like the little, you know, asides, like, oh, this person has eye problems, how are they going to get around that? Like, when is it going to come back? But I feel like it's a lot of just like, I guess like Chekhov's gun stuff, where it's like, oh, this is just a setup for a later fight. And then like, you know, I think how everything is delivered is very fun. I think the plot that it does have is delivered very, very well, and I enjoy that. But it's just, you know, it's not. This is not a literary masterpiece in terms of writing. It is just good and fun. Again, Baki, Record of Ragnarok. It is fun storytelling, a little bit ridiculous at times, like, you know, like how these fights start, like what people do. The idea that like this girl that's still going to like high school has like bombs in her house, and then like she apparently, you know, there are some indications of mischief that she might have done prior to even, you know, her whole father thing. Um, it's just, I genuinely think the intention is not to have some super deep storytelling. It is just fun fights and a good and an entertaining story to get you there, and to make it feel like it isn't just a tournament arc forever with like no real reasoning behind it. It's more so like, oh, like why are these fights happening? Okay, yeah, there's a little bit of that, but like we're just trying to get there. We just want to get to the fights. um, I like the weird proportions of certain characters. I think all the designs are relatively fun. The universe, while it's not grounded, it still has to be kind of, you know, it's leaning more toward realistic than like a fantasy world, right? So I think like the character proportions and like the art design is, it's still a little crazy compared to like real life, but it's definitely like trying to hold itself down a little bit, and I think the designs are really good for what it's trying, like the style it's trying to go for, where it's like, you know, somewhat emulating real life. So I like the style. It has all those like super fun tropes, like the person's, you know, like the art, like where they're like, you know, they have the black eyes and they're running and they're doing crazy things, and the like the world around them's warping, even though of course that's probably not actually meant to be happening in the story. It's fun, right? It has like all those battle manga, you know, tropes that are really fun. I think it does them all really well. Yeah, I mean, I just think this is a very fun series. I like the art. I think the story, you know, does what it needs to do, and it does it very smoothly. I enjoy it. And yeah, I mean, overall, it is a very fun series. I would 100% recommend this to anybody. I guess just a little recap. I'd probably, I think, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of contemplating between like an 8 and a 9. I said 8 or 9 at the start, but I'm still not sure which one I'd lean toward. Like, it could be like somewhere in this middle ground here. Whether or not it's, you know, an 8.5, whatever, I don't know. But like somewhere between an 8 and a 9, like it's a super fun story. I think to be like a 10 to me, it has to be not just like a solid objectively story. Like I think no story is objectively a 10. I think a story can only be a 10 if the individual likes it that much. So I don't necessarily think I could put it at a 10. But I think if I was as generous as I can be, I think I can give it a 9. And I think without being generous, it's at least an 8. So I think to be like relatively fair, it would be somewhere in this middle ground. It is a fun story. I love the visuals. The plot lines on the side are very entertaining. They're very fun. I don't think it's like super deep like some people are saying. I think some people are trying to go that route, but I really think like just because something has a more serious tone to it doesn't make it deep, so I'm not going to say that. But I love it. I think it's super entertaining. And yeah, I think that's about it. This is probably one of the longest reviews I've had, and that's because I really like this story. It's super entertaining. I love it. If you, I don't know, if you enjoyed my little rant and talking about this story, then I'd appreciate a like and subscribe, you know? I wouldn't mind. And yeah, I mean, if you have any other stories you want me to talk about, I'd appreciate, you know, letting me know below. I've probably read most of them, so I mean, yeah, you know, I'm not expecting you to go out of your way to give me something crazy, unique, and not known or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'd appreciate, like, you know, if you let me know about something you find interesting. I think that'd be really cool. I'm constantly reading different stories, and I'm kind of just putting these videos together after I either finish them or, you know, if I remember them or recap or go back and look at them. So, I mean, I would always love to see more to go back and look at. Yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say. If this story was really good, I loved it. And if you like Baki and Record of Ragnarok and, you know, battle-centric manga, anime, whatever, I think you'd like this too. I think this would, I guess final notes, this would be a really cool anime if they ever make that one day. I don't know if that's in the works. I haven't, I'm not looking super deep into the background of all these stories. I'm just looking at the story, but yeah, that'd be really cool someday. Yeah, I'll see ya.